The third is the prosecution pillar. To this group belong the city, provincial, and regional courts, regional states prosecutors of the Department of Justice, and the investigator and prosecutors of the Office of the Ombudsman. They conduct the preliminary investigation if the respondent was not caught in the act of committing the crime, or inquest proceeding if the respondent was caught in the act of committing the crime, to determine whether or not there is probable the respondent in court. If they found the probable cause, they lodged a criminal charge against the respondent before the court. Otherwise, they dismiss the case. Once the criminal case is filed in a court, the court issues a warrant of arrest against the accused. If he was not caught in the act of committing the crime, commitment order. If the accused was caught in the act of committing the crime and has not yet posted bail, or the offense in non-bailable because the crime is punishable by life imprisonment, reclusion perpetua, or death. So, the prosecution pillar, once the criminal case is filed in a court, the court issues warrant of arrest against the accused if they has not caught in the act of committing the crime, or commitment order if the accused was caught in the act of committing the crime and he has not yet posted bail, or the offense in non-bailable because the crime is punishable by life and imprisonment, reclusion perpetua, or death. The prosecution, they conduct the preliminary investigations if the respondent was not caught in the act of committing a crime, or inquest proceeding if the respondent was caught in act of committing the crime, determined whether or not there probable cause, reasonable ground to prosecute the respondent in a court. The prosecutor, fiscal from the DOJ for crimes committed by non-government people, or from the Ombudsman, for although the fiscals can prosecute criminal cases against government people under the continuing authority of the Office of the Ombudsman, now stands and the lawyer for the states people of the Philippines and prosecute the case, the victim, the law enforcers who investigate the crime, and other witnesses will now testify in a court. The defense counsel will defend the accused. After the trial, the court will now decide whether or not accused is guilty. If he is, then he shall be penalized, fine, or imprisonment, or both. If he is not, he shall be acquitted, set free. So, the prosecution pillar is committed by the government people, although the fiscal can prosecute criminal cases against government people under the continuing authority of the Office of the Ombudsman. Now, stand as the lawyer for the state people of the Philippines and prosecute the case. The victim, law enforcers who investigate the crime, and other witnesses will now testify in court. The defense counsel will defend the accused. After the trial, the court will now decide whether or not the accused is guilty. The case will be moved to the prosecution if the suspect is arrested, in which prosecutors will analyze and evaluate the evidence that presented. Once that the evidence is valid and strong enough, criminals will return to the community if the case may be diverted, misled, where there is no probable cause that sustain. So, once that the evidence is valid and strong enough, criminal will be returned to the community if the case may be diverted or misled, where there is no probable cause that sustained. So, the prosecution process. The investigation of the prosecution of all cases involving violations of penal laws are lodged with the Department of Justice (DOJ) through its National Prosecution Service (NAPROS). The DOJ is headed by the Secretary of Justice with 3 undersecretaries assisting him. Aside from being the prosecution arm of the government, the DOJ shall have the following powers and functions: act as principal law agency of the government and as legal counsel and representative thereof whenever so required. Administer the probation and correction system. Extend free legal assistance representation to indigents and poor litigants in criminal cases and non-commercial civil disputes. Preserve the integrity of land titles through proper registration. Investigate and arbitrate untitled land disputes involving small landowners and members of indigenous cultural communities. Provide immigration and naturalization regulatory services and implements the law governing citizenship and the admission and stay of aliens. Provide legal services to the national government and its functionaries, including government-owned or controlled corporations and their subsidiaries, and perform such other function as may be provided by law. It consists of the following constituent units: Department proper, Office of the Government Council, National Bureau of Investigation, Public Attorney's Office, Board of Pardons and Parole, Parole and Probation Administration, Bureau of Corrections, Land Registration Authority, Bureau of Immigrations, and Commission on the Settlement of Land problems. So, the prosecution process is the prosecution process, the investigation and prosecution of all cases involving violation of penal laws are lodged with the Department of Justice, which is DOJ, through its National Prosecution Service is NAPRUS. And the DOJ is headed by the Secretary of Justice with 3 under secretaries assisting him.